Step 3, Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up.
Welcome to Tales from the Field. We are back and better than ever. My name is Bradley Ball, and welcome to the show. Last week, Daniel Taylor presented Azure SQL Manage Instant Pools, fast, predictable, and scalable. Great work with that video, Dan. It was wonderful stuff. We had our Azure Data Community Roundtable. And here we are once again with the roundtable and a video ready to drop on Wednesday. It is hot outside. So come in and cool down with us. Enjoy a little AC, enjoy a little learning. So much to do, so much to see. You don't want to miss a thing. If this is your first time making your way over to Tales from the Field, give us a like and give us a subscribe. We drop content every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Today is Tuesday, and it is the Azure Data Community Roundtable, and we are happy to have you and the community with us. If you want to make a comment on the show, you can so easily participate and be a part of the show. All you have to do, make that comment, and one of my amazing co-hosts is going to take a look at that. They're going to add it to the stream, and you will be a part of the show. Speaking of those amazing co-hosts, I am joined by the Mountain Man, Mr. Daniel Taylor, the Robin Hood of our group, Mr. Marco Cardoso. I am also joined by Mr. Andreas Padilla, the best beard of the business. And I don't know why, but I just noticed that our name tags are missing. I don't even remember where that is, but I'm going to have to go find that and see if I can. Oh, there we go. I just found it. There we go. Hey, everybody knows who we are now. And give yourself the gift of sound whenever this man speaks and just drink in that voice. It's your friend of mine, Mr. Neeraj Jhaveri. A quick call to action. We are here as a part of the Azure Data Community Roundtable. We want you to be a part of that Azure Data community. So go over to the Microsoft website for the Azure Data community. Find a user group near you. Jump in, be a participant. User groups are a wonderful way to be able to find and make connections. Could be making the connection that's going to help you with your current job or even help you find your next one. They are a wonderful place to get along and also to be able to grow your connections within the community. Once you have those connections within the community, what do we want you to do? We want you to get some free training. And the best place to go do that is over at SQLSaturday.com. So many wonderful SQL Saturdays that are coming up that have happened this year and others that will be happening as well. You don't want to miss those. Wonderful Microsoft MVPs, Microsoft employees, some of the top consultants in the field will be joining us at SQL Saturdays, giving you free training for an absolute bargain of a price as well. Some of the pre-cons you get there are top-notch pre-cons that you pay hundreds, if not thousands of dollars more to be able to get at a conference. Participate in your local SQL Saturday and make sure that you attend and join them. And when you do that, make sure you also head over to Data Saturday. Wonderful Data Saturday events happening throughout the globe. We've got Brisbane, South Island, but we also have the very close and accessible Columbus, Oslo, Denmark, Gothenburg, Dallas, wonderful locations up and running. So many amazing people to be able to go see. Speaking of amazing places to be able to get some, if you're a fabricator, and I know I am, you definitely want to check out the European Microsoft Fabric Conference coming to you. The early bird sale ends in 3 days, so you want to make sure that you hit while the iron is hot and make sure and get that great price. It's going to be over in Stockholm at the end of September. Wonderful announcements. Absolutely massive event. Big investment by the PG that we have got planned for over there. And speaking of a nice investment in the PG, if you're looking to learn a little bit more about Microsoft Fabric, head over to our Microsoft Fabric Learning channel, where we have close to 4,000 members over here commenting, talking to one another, sharing content. Some of that content you're going to see today on the roundtable. Whew, that was a lot. Andreas, talk to me, Goose. What's up, buddy? How was your weekend?
Yeah, week's going. It was bad on Monday because the Euro Cup and the Copa America finished. And I'm like, What am I going to do now? It was the summer of soccer, but then I do have something great coming up. I'm going to go to Costa Rica in 10 days. So,
there you go.
Something on the horizon.
Bridging the gap to get to the Olympics.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The opening ceremonies, I'll be in, by Volcano, taking that in.
There you go. Oh, that's beautiful, man. I want to see pictures. I want some videos. That sounds, I've had so many people go to Costa Rica and tell me how much they love it. What a great time they have. I'm very excited. Have you been before? Is this your first time going?
Second time. First time I went surfing on a surfing trip, and I was out of my element. Those waves are big. You know, they were definitely different from what we get out here in Southern California. But now I'm going with the family, so it's more go look at animals and sloths.
Oh, that'll be fun. I mean, look, it's a beautiful, beautiful. Do you do the zip line thing? I've seen that they have the zip line tours.
We're trying to get that, but with our 4-year-old, we're trying to see if there's any weight or harness limitations that she might slip out. And I think they're gonna have to double tie her down. And if I can get her up there.
I think double tie your dad is literally what you have to do with any 4-year-old. That's now if you get to do that, does she have a fear of heights? Do you think she be hugging onto dad? She'd be good.
She's nuts. She's got the I don't care.
There you go. I love that spirit. Speaking of wonderful things that I love, big reminder, the Tampa Bay Fabric User Group is tonight. Dan, you presented there last month, right? Do you know who's presenting this month for the Tampa Bay Fabric User Group?
I just had it open and I forgot the gentleman's name, but this week we are stepping a little bit away from technology and we are going to be talking about mentoring strategies for career growth. So it kind of goes into branding and stuff like that. So it's going to be a very interesting session by Robert Skoglund. So if you're in the Tampa Bay area, St. Pete or whatever, come across the bridge. If you're coming from Lakeland, come across I-4. May the force be with you if you're doing that. But yeah, it's going to be a fun time tonight. And it was a great time presenting there last month on it, where we did an intro to fabric. And look, we're taking the fabric journey. We're doing it all together.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, speaking of Neeraj, Josh missing again. Did Brad make him eat pizza with pineapple? I know where you're going with this, Neeraj. Josh says it's okay. He's safe. He's in a safe space. I would never force pineapple on somebody who doesn't want to eat it. Although I do agree with Marco. The alien situation is escalating again. Josh just he is targeted. Speaking of that, my wife and I, every now and then, this is something that we started during COVID, right? Where you were locked in, you'd go through a series and you'd watch every episode of something. And one of the things that we did, like we did Ted Lasso, we did Community, Parks and Rec, eventually made it through Modern Family. I think that was one we made it through about in the last year or so. We've been continuing to go along with that. We're doing the X-Files right now. And we just started season 4. And I realized I had never watched the series all the way through. Made sense. I was a senior in high school and I was going off to college. And so there was plenty to do. And it wasn't like we had DVRs or you could just stream stuff on demand back in the 90s. But one of the funny things was there was an alien conspiracy in the Social Security Administration. They had these giant alien files and they took up, get this, 7 complete 10 gigabyte databases. And I went, wow, they really needed to shoot a little bit higher than that. They were all like, what file is so big that it's taking up 7 10 gigabyte databases? Not only that, they were saying that the hard drives were completely full and the computers were still operating. And I went, not in 95, they weren't. No, they weren't.
No. That X-Files was when Missy and I were, I had just graduated. She was in graduate school, and it was the only time she would allow me to come over and see her because she was like studying came first. Like that was her goal. But yeah, X-Files was our date night back in the day. And I remember that. And now that you bring that up, yeah, I remember that episode. And I'm like, hold on, what are they running this on a Commodore 64? I mean, what's going on here? What are we doing?
I know back in the day, I looked at my wife and every now and then I just pause things when they did, because they're very guilty of this. Do you guys remember in TV shows when they used to, like, they'd have a photo and it'd be like a tiny little corner on my back shelf and they'd be like, enhance, clear it up. And it'd be like a 1080p photo of whatever it was in my background. They were so guilty of doing that. And I had to take one of my sons and go, hey, watch this for a second. And he goes, that's not how that works. That's not how photography works. I go, I know, but everybody in the 90s thought that it would be like that one day. And I said, that's why nowadays when you see a movie or something, somebody always says the line, hey, can we enhance that? and people go, that's not how pictures work. That's not how you do that. But it did get me, and I've got this from Marco and Andreas. It did get me thinking. Technically, if you used AI to be able to fill in the building blocks and say, this is what's in the background, help me comprise an image that I'm scaling up like that. That may be possible if you said to AI, fill in the building blocks in the background. Maybe it wouldn't be complete, but that would be one way that you could get that enhance, clear by AI. So who knows? Maybe we've got a whole wave of that coming in future TV shows. It doesn't work like that. Can you have AI reconstruct it? Yes, we could. Okay, speaking of the fantastical, of course, you know who's up. The first and the foremost, Mr. Neeraj Jhaveri. Neeraj, we've got the Microsoft Fabric June 2024 update by Mr. Jason Hamilton. So please, Neeraj, take us away. What do we got within here?
So, I mean, George just kept saying if 10 is 10 GB at big data in. So would you require Fabric in 1990s? I don't know, but yes, we require Fabric right now because the data have grown so big. And these are the June updates. So first thing, European conference, Brad already mentioned that up. If you are around that area, if you plan to go, I'm only person who is really qualified among us is Dan, who is going to that European conference. So Dan, good luck. Other thing is certification. I mean, Brad, you did a great session on certification. But definitely, if you want to challenge yourself, go for the certification part of it. Now the content. So the way Jason has put it up is it's broken down into Power BI users, all the things that are coming for the Power BI side of it. Then he goes for, I mean, major thing coming on the Power BI side. The one that I liked was the mobile part of it, where he shows visuals as tables, which is in preview right now. But in your mobile, if you're using Power BI, you can see tables in format. So that is something cool. New visualizations were pretty good for it, particularly the world visualizations and all that stuff. And then you go from OneLake, Synapse. I mean, a lot of things have come up in last month also. There's a video that shows you each and every feature. So that's something walks you through something nice to watch on it. But definitely a lot of updates coming in. I'm sure, Brad, this month we'll do some of the updates. I mean, we'll show them the demos of some of the updates.
No, I agree, and I absolutely love that the PG is doing this. This is one of the things that we had kind of talked about internally with them, that they had said they were going to do. That they were going to take some of these updates because the updates are so long, and that they were going to put a video together for it, which is I think is always a fantastic approach. Many of us are very visual. You can go ahead and watch these things on the go. It's a great way to be able to have this kind of transcribed to you. And I think that is a fantastic approach. So I'm really, really glad to see they're doing it. I'm glad to see that that's embedded in there. Please make sure and go check out that June update, because all of that content for June is now ready. As a matter of fact, one of the things that I do want to announce, we are moving the Fabric Community Roundtable from the last week of the month to the first week of the month. So there's not going to be a Fabric Community Roundtable this month, but we will do one the first week of August so we can have the July wrap up completely there with us. And I'm glad we're doing that from a perspective, because sometimes that blog comes out just a little bit after. We know what's coming, but sometimes we can't talk about some of that stuff until the blog hits. And so it just makes good sense for us to wait for the blog and to be able to do it. But we have a special treat coming up this month. We have 2 PG live streams. As a matter of fact, today we're going to start advertising for next week's. Next week, we have the Azure OpenAI team returning to us, and we're going to be talking about some new features for the Open API Assistant. I'm very, very excited about this. Mona Whalen will be joining us again. And then the week after that, we don't even have this scheduled because we've got the alert up for the OpenAI PG, but very soon we'll be scheduling this. We're going to have the Postgres PG on, and we're going to specifically talk about Postgres. We're going to talk about some of the commitments we made to the community. They're on the road to CitusCon, which is the big Postgres convention, and they've got a lot of wonderful things that they want to talk about, and we're hopefully going to get them back after the conference to be able to talk about that a little bit more with us. So speaking of that wonderful team, my wrap up or my first entry is the June 2024 recap, Azure Postgres SQL or Postgres Flexible Server by Varun Dhawan. Varun is a wonderful PM that we have over on the Postgres team. And there's a lot of wonderful content that we have for June that has come out. You can see some of the feature highlights. We've got a major version upgrade for Postgres 16, new Postgres SQL minor versions and Flex, PG vector extensions, the migration service enhancements, and the vector extension. I don't want to skip over that. That's that vector functionality that you're looking for often in API compatibilities to be able to store vectorized tokens to be able to use with your models. Troubleshooting guide enhancements, added support for China North 2 and China East 2 regions, and then long-term backup support for CMK-enabled servers in preview, and Azure Postgres sessions at the POSIT event for Postgres 2024. So there's so much to look at within this article. I have not posted them yet, but I'm going to do it very soon. I'm going to make sure all of the links go live, and you will have all this wonderful content down in the description of the video. But just some wonderful stuff. And as you can see, we have a keynote. There are a lot of wonderful, wonderful sessions that we have. Tales from the Field, Oracle to Postgres SQL to Postgres migrations. You had me at hello. What a wonderful name for a session. I don't think there could be anything better. So a lot of great stuff in that June update. I'm looking forward to having that team on. I'm looking forward to us doing a little bit more with Postgres. And speaking of something that I'm also looking forward to, I always love a good blog by our good friend Alex Powers, who joined us on the Fabric update last month. And of course, you know who's got that? The mountain man himself, Mr. Daniel Taylor, cleaning the staging lakeside. Dan, what have we got going on here?
You know, good friend of the team, strong promoter of the Tales from the Field logo, right? So what we have here is Alex wants us to clean our staging tables. It's as simple as that, right? So Alex goes through, gives us an idea of why we should be cleaning our staging tables, and gives us some really strong examples there. And Alex then goes through, what should we do to kind of prevent this? He wants us to start using, with our data flow Gen 2, he wants us to start using our, and I'm losing the word here, our connections, our data destinations, big word, y'all. And he wants to start using that in our data flows. Look, there will be some times where you need to use staging to get that parallel performance and to get that bump. But if you don't need that, he wants us to start using data destinations. He airs some grievances here. I love how Alex writes this. I can see him, like his personality coming through in the blog, airing his grievances with why we should use the data connectors. And he goes through the data flows, staging warehouse, the table names, how they get complex and ugly out there, and setting that data destination. And then for those reasons, Alex then gives us not only his grievances, but how are we going to correct this? And then he gives us an example real quick, provides us definitions. It's always good to know what you're doing here, what stage queries are, what our non-stage queries are, what our computed tables are. But then the best part of this is I was able to work through, and we've talked about this, Brad, before on our channel. I was able to walk through his demos here to show that how can we clean up these staging tables.
I love it.
And then he goes,
I love that he's got so much end-to-end detail associated with it as well. And that's a great thing is this is a blog you can follow from beginning to end. And Alex has got every single bit of this. So if you want to duplicate this, you can, which is great.
Yep. And it's an easy to read article too. His flow and the verbiage that he uses just makes it an easy read. It really does. It makes a very technical solution seem very easy for those of us who don't work with data flow Gen 2 all the time.
Absolutely. You know, one of the things I look at with this is I sit there and I think about something like this that Alex has put together, and it can't help it get me excited to try this. And he does such a good job of going step by step. But not only that, the complexity of what you can do with data flow Gen 2 is actually quite amazing. Alex was helping me out with something the other day that will eventually make it into a video for us. And one of the things that he was doing, the way he was just whipping around and utilizing that, I went, you know, I want more of Alex operating with Dataflow Gen 2 in my life. It's wonderful, wonderful stuff to have. We lost Andreas momentarily. I'm thinking something may have just happened, so I'm gonna do a quick audible. And Marco, I'm gonna put you up next. We'll see when Andreas comes. We'll just kind of bump this until we get him back in the broadcast. But I'm gonna go to you. Graph RAG unlocking LLM discovery on narrative private data. That may be the longest title we've had so far. Good to you on there. I'd expect nothing less. What do we got going on here?
Come on, it's not such a big title this time. You guys just picked the shorter and sweeter ones. So Graph RAG, this is something I've been honestly stalling a little bit to learn about. I've been hearing about it here and there. This is a new way to do retrieval augmented generation. And as with all things AI, I keep a healthy amount of skepticism when one of these comes along. But fortunately, last week, I was able to catch up on some of these topics. So this is a new way, well, not a new way, it's an existing technology, but a new way to associate this technology with OpenAI models and with other generative AI models to resolve problems that our tried and true RAG doesn't really get us all the way through. So it talks about how we can do things with Graph RAG, like whole data set reasoning, where it will consider all the content in your data set to answer a question, or it will do simple things like if you ask, for example, hey, what are the top 5 topics in this data? That's something that regular RAG isn't that good at doing, because it will compare that question with pieces of the document. It'll bring relevant pieces based on similarity, and things like top topics or relationships between topics aren't that evident with your usual vector search. With Graph RAG, you're then able to associate these pieces of documents with other pieces of data and answer questions in a much more complete way. You can make sure that you're grabbing all the relevant pieces before doing your generative AI step. So really interesting stuff. I've been really taking a while looking at this and looking at the research behind it. It's really sound, and I'm eager to see what kind of solutions we can build out of this. It also contains a lot of examples, a lot of benchmarks with different pieces of data, and the results are really, really promising.
Awesome. I absolutely love that. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful example. I love the examples too, where it had the question, it had the result for the baseline RAG, and then what the graph RAG pattern actually got, because it could, because when we talk about graph, right, people will think charts and graphs, Power BI, but it's a little bit different. It's where we go, how are these things related to one another? Our friend Buck Woody would always, give a good example of that when he goes, if you ask an LLM, tell me a story about a princess going on a picnic. It's gonna look at princess, and it's gonna go, what's the equivalent to the princess? Well, the princess is royalty. It's gonna be a part of a royal family. Another part of the royal family is a king and a queen. And so what do you do at a picnic? Well, you go to a place, you lay down a blanket, and you get different things out of a picnic basket, and you eat. And it's by the relation of these terms to one another that the graph starts putting items together. The LLM then pulls it back and goes, okay, so once upon a time, there was a princess and she wanted to go on a picnic. And so the king and the queen took her, and they found a nice tree in the kingdom, and they sat down and laid down a blanket, and they pulled out some sandwiches from the picnic basket. That whole thing comes together because of the proximity. But it's amazing when you think about it, because the RAG pattern is we're pulling in our own data. We're asking questions about our own data. And adding this graph capability allows it to be able to graph our data, find more comparisons, bring back a better and complete set of data. Really, really cool stuff. Andreas, I got you up next, brother. We are going to introducing AI Assistant Safe Evaluations in Azure AI Studio. That sounds amazing, and it sounds like it has to do with security, which is always very, very important. Andreas, talk to me. What do we got? What do we got going on here?
I'm revisiting a topic that Marco brought up a couple sessions ago, and it's more and more. It's more so also because I've been getting a lot of questions from more customers that I find are maturing in their LLM ops maturity model. They're now going from, that foundation of exploration, and now they're starting to systemize and automate things, and then they're getting into proactive monitoring, and then finally, so I find that customers are now in like stage 2, stage 3, and then the more advanced customers are getting to like stage 4. But what I love about this article is it helps us, when you get into that stage 2, stage 3 of your maturity model, what can I do in there? And what you can do is you can start applying safety evaluations, and they do a great job. Minsu does a great job of explaining what safety evaluations are. Those are, hey, I want to, filter out and monitor for unfair content, sexual content, violent content, jailbreaks, self-harm related content. There's a number of out-of-the-box evaluators that you can throw into the mix. And how do we get this started within AI Studio? There's also some other great things that you can do. You can set up like synthetic data sets that are generated by GPT-4 to help you test your prompts against those synthetic data sets. You can bring in your own generated data sets. Excuse me. And then you can create simulators that go over and over and over and like run through the process as many times as you want. So, and what else they show us in this article is how to get what it's like in what it is, what it's like in AI Studio, and then if you wanted to do this all in code, you can do this all in code.
Very nice. It's always good to have those options because as much as it's nice to have a graphical user interface to be able to do something in a WYSIWYG format, when we get in actually productionalized systems, right, we're looking at code, we're looking at CI/CD process, we're looking at DevOps, and we're looking at how do we deploy this. And code is typically that way that you're going to version and you're going to do a deployment. You don't typically GUI version with the GUI. So I love it that out of the box, we've got these capabilities there. Excellent stuff. Excellent. All right. So speaking of excellent, I saw this and I was very, very excited about this announcement. Just happening just this week. As a matter of fact, only 2 days ago. And it's our buddy Neeraj Jhaveri talking about announcing GitHub integration for source control for Microsoft Fabric in preview. Neeraj, what do we got going on here?
Yep. So people were asking for this. Can we have Git integration for the developers and all of them? So yes, GitHub is the developer place where people want to do it up. We had Azure DevOps before. Now we have Git as one of the source. All you need to do is connect your environment with your Git repository, authorizing. It shows you how to authorize it up, and with that, you will be integrating your Git with your Fabric environment. Other stuff is like branching and all of them is still there. So you would, yeah, that's true. Add a specific switch to the admin portal, then it's turned on. So that definitely, I forgot to mention that up. If you go to your admin portal, turn it on, it's just a toggle button and you should be able to do it.
Yeah, you've got to have the administrative permissions to be able to do this. But if you've been looking for that GitHub integration versus just Azure DevOps integration, this is something that you want to make sure that your administrator goes and enables so you can begin working on this.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Pretty easy to do it. And I know a lot of people were waiting for it to come in. So it's preview right now, just FYI. So just consider that there might be some changes to it.
No, that's exciting. It's good that we have those options over in the CI/CD world. It's important to be able to continue to grow, and it's nice to see us continuing to do that. I'm also heading over. Oh yeah,
Brad, maybe you could create something like you had for the Synapse thing, right? You had the 5-part block videos that you created. Maybe this might be a cool one to do it.
I've actually been begun working through the process for that. We've got some stuff we're all working on behind the covers. And so my hope is that I'm going to be able to do something like that. It may take me till the fall to be able to get some of that sorted out the way I need to. But I'm talking with different folks, and I'd like to make sure that we actually have that. There's multiple different choices and ways to be able to do CI/CD for Fabric. That's the most interesting thing about it. There's a couple different paths, and it really varies if you want to go GUI or if you want to go code-based And then there's even some code base and GUI based solutions that intermingle between the two. So the CI/CD journey in Microsoft Fabric is very, very interesting. It's gotten more interesting over this past year, but I'm very, very excited for us to be able to work with that, for us to be able to play around with that, and for us to be able to do a start to finish. And we may end up having to do the start to finish for the 3 different scenarios, but I think that would be a wonderful thing for us to do. Absolutely agree. So speaking of wonderful, I'm going to take us over to Mr. Sean Marable and his wonderful blog that dropped yesterday on the Fabric blog, Fabric Data Pipelines, Advanced Scheduling Techniques, Part 2. Now, I'm going to give you a quick blast from the past because back in February, Sean had dropped Part 1. And the really interesting things is there's a couple things that Sean was showing us how to be able to do workarounds for, including how to be able to get event-based scheduling on storage accounts that we actually now have in the product. As a matter of fact, we have a good video out there on how to be able to use storage events on ADLS Gen 2. Right now, it's only ADLS Gen 2, but there's a couple things that Sean addresses that I know customers are looking for, and I can't wait to dive into this a little bit more. But one of the first things he goes to is how do you do a specific day of the month? How do you do monthly scheduling? And so he gives a good example of that. And then he shows how you can set a parameter variable, an if condition, to be able to run a pipeline, and how to be able to check for that. He puts it all together for us. And that is one of those things that customers are looking for how to do right now. But the fact that Sean wrote a blog on it, I'm not going to be surprised if we end up seeing this in the product in 3-4 months. But this is a wonderful stopgap measure that if anybody is looking for, how do I schedule something specifically on the day? We can use that set variable. We can set an if condition to then be able to trigger a pipeline to be able to run. And we can set that up right now. So sometimes we'd like to have everything and we'd like to have it now. But the wonderful thing is Sean's showing us how we can kind of have the best of both worlds. While we're waiting for that functionality within the scheduler, there's a great opportunity for us to be able to do this and do it right now. So don't let that hold you back. And I love it when Sean shows us these things, but I'm also excited for what that means the future of data pipelines is going to bring. Speaking of something that makes me excited for the future, I'm always excited when I see something from the Mountain Man Daniel Taylor, and we're looking at the Admin Droid blog. This is a new blog. I don't believe we featured this one before. Dan, what do we got going on here?
Yes. So Shruti here of Admin Droid goes through a story, what inspired this particular blog post, but then goes into what is a shared access signature. And I've been playing a lot with shared access signatures lately due to some security things I've been looking through to to securely store my SaaS tokens so that I can use them. Shruti goes through the different types of shared access signatures. What this blog brought to light for me was the user delegation SaaS. I haven't looked at that, and today I'm looking at that as one of the things to overcome some connection properties that I'm working through right now. Goes through the different types of SaaS tokens that we can have in the forums. And then the big thing here, what I loved about this article, and I've been sharing with folks, is when do shared access signature tokens become vulnerable, right? When are these a risk to our environment? And a couple of them really stood out to me, and I'll let you read through the blog post because I definitely recommend going over and doing this. Anonymous sharing of resources. We shouldn't be using anonymous anyhow. We should, especially if we're utilizing our environment's data that could be sensitive, we shouldn't be doing that. Excessive access of privileges. I see a lot of folks when I do training sessions, they just click all the boxes automatically. I'm like, whoa. We only need read access here. Well, but what if, no, we're going to stop there. And the no revocation of SaaS tokens. But then Shruti goes through what are the best practices for our SaaS tokens down there below with respect to SaaS token security. Walks us through the different things that you want to do down there, Brad, towards the bottom. And shares the different ways that we can securely share our SaaS tokens. Really great article, really interesting read, and I recommend folks that are using SaaS tokens go out and look at this so that you can get a better understanding how to secure your storage accounts using SaaS tokens.
No, as a matter of fact, this is one I'm saving for later. I've already moved it over to another screen because I didn't get a chance to read this beforehand. But I will definitely be reading this now. And it's always a good thing to be able to understand those security limitations. Sometimes there's a good valid reason to be able to check those boxes. Like I have had situations where I have not checked those boxes, trying to do least level of permissions required. And then there's other times where we're in the data world where we got to read, we've got to write, we've got to list the permissions to be able to read the directory and dive on through there. For example, when we were using serverless SQL pools a lot in Azure Synapse Analytics, and we needed to be able to have directly list, read, write, and then we also needed the capability to have that partition level star aggregate functioning when we would break up the folders to be able to have search where we could have an optimal path that we put in as the user. So but you're absolutely right. Just checking everything by default, never a good idea. That's like giving, SA permission on your SQL databases by default. Not always a good idea, but we want to make sure that we understand those things. I do recall though, and we have a video on this. You helped me understand a better way to be able to back up my Azure SQL managed instances by using managed identities directly to blob storage for permission instead of SAS tokens. And so it's a good reminder that, when you can use a managed identity, grant it the level of permissions, or even a service principal to be able to do those things, it's a much better option than a SAS token to be able to go in and get that data. But there are reasons like public data sets where typically you're going to need some level of anonymous in that, but that's very specific within that genre. But you want to make sure that you're looking at the level of security and permissions that you need. Go to that least level of security because giving too much is just, opening up that security landscape for vulnerability.
Agreed. And I always like to work from the least to the most, or, the least to what I need. So if I get an error, add one more. If I get an error, add one more, rather than working backwards, because you just don't know, what is providing that. So yeah, great stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I agree. Well, and speaking of great stuff, of course, coming up next, we've got Mr. The best beard in the business, great stuff himself, Andreas Padilla, detect and mitigate underground model outputs. Underground model outputs. I don't know why, Andreas, but that makes me think of a club that I used to go to in college.
Underground, yes, ungrounded outputs.
Underground.
Yeah, I want to go underground. If there's if the pineapples attack, we're gonna go all underground. That's what we're gonna do.
If the pineapples attack, I got to tell you, that sounds like a great mystery science theater 3000 type of movie. The pineapples attack. I could see it now. Josh running away as we have giant pineapples chasing us. He just looks over at me. I told you this would happen.
So we'll wait for that movie to come out. But this is, just the next step. One of those things that I want from my previous article that we posted about the safety and the content filters, ungrounded model outputs, and finding out if your data is properly grounded in truth and it's not hallucinating is one of the first steps one of those top evaluators you probably should be implementing in your RAG pattern, and in, making sure that what the response is correct. And what Ken Archer does here is he talks to us about what the groundedness detection does. And then what I really love here is what once you detect, that when you can an ungrounded claim, what customers can take of the mitigation steps they can take. They can start to retest their AI implementation. They can trigger a rewrite of ungrounded statements before returning the completion to the end user. I love that. Maybe make a workaround before sending the response back to the user. Maybe I found out, wow, this is not properly grounded. Let me rewrite the statement. So there's a number of mitigation steps that you can take. And then he gives you the link to go into the actual MS documentation. And in there, I just want you to remember this. 5 is the score we want. 5 is grounded. 1, no good. 5, good. And in the documentation, you'll dive in a little bit deeper about what the groundedness model is doing behind the scene, how does it work, when to use it. First step, start implementing, start using the groundedness monitoring feature. It's one of the first ones you should be using.
Very nice. I love it. Fantastic stuff. And speaking of, because Andreas was talking about this, talking about the links, all the links are currently in the description of the video. I have got them. They are saved. They are added. So if you're looking for this, go and check out the description. If for some reason you don't see it, because I got in there a little bit late, just refresh the page and then go ahead and click down to the bottom. It's okay. We're live. We'll wait for you. Go ahead and do it. Now, all right. Now, speaking of, so yeah, I saw we got a couple comments in here. So first off, thank you for the shout out on the Snaps blogs, Marga. I had no idea what we were doing at the time. And Neeraj says, I like the name Admin Droid. Of course you do. You're the reason all of my chats are in green, Neeraj. That's we couldn't do text messages anymore. That's why we had to go to Signal. That's more Apple's fault. Let me just say that. That's more Apple's fault for not fixing the text message system than it is yours. But it would be nice if we could get that right. Josh says, give all the permissions. Why only one? He may still be delirious. That's okay, Josh. I think the gas from the dentist is still affecting you. Pineapples are early scouts sent in to do recon before Skynet takes over. Yes, the drugs are good at the dentist. Real good. Great emoticons, Josh. I love it. We miss you. Welcome back. But yes, I do think we're going to have to do a Tales from the Field production when pineapples attack. That's a mission at some point. I'm saying D movie. If we hit a D, we've exceeded all expectations. That's all it needs to be. And then we can review it live and do our own Mystery Science Theater 3000. All right. Now, speaking of things I'm dreaming about, build your dream team with AutoGen. Margo, first thought, dream team. We got to have Jordan. I think I probably want LeBron on there as well now. And then we got to go Magic and we got to go Bird. I don't think that's the dream team you're talking about. Andreas, you got a center for me. What are you thinking? Wilt, Shaq? Who are we going for the dream team center?
For me, it would be Shaq. Nothing got
Shaq.
on my side.
There we go. We got the Shaq attack coming. I like it. That's a dream team. Let's send them to the Olympics. No, okay, Marco, what do we got? Build your dream team with AutoGen.
Cool. So AutoGen, this is another one of the topics I was wanting to catch up on. There's so much new stuff coming in. By the way, this is part of probably what Mona Walling will talk about during the next show when we talk about the news with Assistance API. One of the features is full support for AutoGen. So this blog talks about how to do a simple scenario using multi-agent framework as a solution. I really love this graphic here. It really breaks down what it looks like to talk to AutoGen with multiple agents. So you've got a user conveniently dressed as a superhero. They'll be requesting something we call a chat manager to respond any questions that they have, any help that they need assistance with. That chat manager then is responsible for assigning each one of the sub-agents to solve the problem. So in this case, we're asking, what are the 5 leading GitHub repositories on LLM for the legal domain? So typically that chat manager will ask first to the planner agent, hey, formulate a plan to solve this. I know there are multiple steps to it. The answer may be really simple, but there are multiple steps to do this. So the planner will come back and say, okay, here's what we need to do. We're going to search GitHub for LLMs on the legal domain. We're going to need to write some code to do that. We'll make that integration. We'll get the repositories. Then we'll check if the answer makes sense. We'll check if we actually got to the response. And finally, we'll give the user a summarized response based on everything that we found. What that is doing is really, it may look like multiple agents, but in the end, we're talking about the same model. What we're actually doing is providing the framework for the LLM model to actually extend the question to show his thinking in a way that makes sense for humans. So humans typically plan, they typically make the integration, and they typically check their responses. So that provides a way for you to, instead of trying to get to an answer with 10, 20 tokens, to use 800 tokens and show your thinking and get to the most accurate answer possible. Yeah,
I
go ahead.
love this because what you're saying is it's optimizing the use of tokens. But also, as we all know, an LLM can fill many roles. So if you say to an LLM, "Hey, you're this role. You're a marketing professional. Give me this elevator pitch," and then if you say, "Give me this elevator pitch, but give it to me in the style of, Jerry Seinfeld," you can get a lot of different things and a lot of different personalities. Buck did a really funny one where it said, "Explain this process to us, explain it as if it's from the King James Bible, explain it in bro," and then he goes, "Give me more bro, give me the most bro ever." And it was funny because it changed every single time, but it was still the same agent, but it was switching as if it was different personas. And that's what AutoGen is doing. You're saying it's wearing the hat of those different personas underneath the covers, and it's looking at things from those different points of view. And instead of me having to say, "Hey, as a planner, do this. As a developer, do this. As a QA, do this. As an executor, do this," I'm saying, "Here's me, the user. Here's my request," and it's taking on all those personas using a smaller level of tokens to be able to get me an end product, right?
Exactly. And that is just providing the framework for the model to be able to think through the question and find the best answer. So really cool stuff. I had the opportunity to play around with this new SDK. If you scroll down, you'll see code samples that are using the new assistant agent that supports OpenAI assistants. Super easy to set up. You give it the instructions for each one of these personas, and it will automatically configure them on your OpenAI instance. So it'll create and manage those agents. Once they're created, it can use them to answer multiple different questions. It'll show the thinking behind any of the answers that it generates. And even things like, we talked about graphs before, it'll talk about how these different agents are related amongst each other. So how often does the QA talk to the developer? How often does the manager have to talk to each one of them? So really interesting outputs out of this tool. It solves much more complex problems than a single model would. And we're going to talk more about this when we talk about the Assistance API refresh.
Fantastic stuff. I love it. That is so great. That's so interesting and cool. I can't wait to talk to Mona about this next week. This is going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, the manager looks like they are singing opera, Dan. Absolutely. I love it. They had me at a cape. As a matter of fact, I was looking at that little stick figure and I went, "Why don't I wear a cape more? I know I've got a Superman cape and a Thor cape. I mean, I should just be strolling around the house in the morning, with my yoga shorts on and my t-shirt and a cape, drinking coffee. I think that'd just be lovely. I need to wear more capes in my life."
But Brad, then we would know your superhero persona, right? We love the tech individual Brad during the day. You have to have that persona like in the after hours, which may explain your lack of sleep lately.
Well, I think that world. I think that has nothing to do with superhero activities and everything to do with troubleshooting environments.
All right. Well, there's your superhero right there.
So next week you will be going to go save Josh from aliens as a superhero.
Oh, that'd be fun. I think Josh would be worried that I would not necessarily save him, but force him to eat pineapple in some way, shape.
Yeah, for a few days.
I think that's what Josh would run away from me into the alien pineapple. I think that's going to be the outcome. Okay. Remember, future data driven. We've got sessions that are going to be occurring. Andreas Garage have a session, myself and Dan have a session. Live is coming out a week before Thanksgiving. You want to make sure that you guys can hear me. Something going on? No, can you hear me now? There we go. Okay. Yeah, StreamYard. Sorry about that. Fix that audio thing that I reported a year and a half ago. Jeez. Sorry about that, everybody.
Two.
The week before Thanksgiving, you want to make sure there's no other place you want to be than on the wonderful grounds of the Lowe's Royal Pacific Resort, Universal Studios in Orlando, Florida. We're going to be decorated for Christmas. It is a great event. We're going to be there. Buck Woody's going to be there. Tom LaRock's going to be there. So many other wonderful people. The schedule is out. The agenda, all the pre-cons. You want to go check it out, and you want to go be there. Anything else that we need to talk about before we go, guys?
No.
Nope. We're going to be I said nope, and then I started talking. We're going to be a future data-driven summit. presenting there. Some of us will be presenting in Boston here in October. So we got a busy year for end of the year for Tales from the Field. So
absolutely. Check out Dan in Boston, Future Data Driven, Neeraj, Andreas, myself, Dan. And then we've got some other SQL Saturdays coming up before we get to Live 360. We will have to see. All right. For Daniel Taylor, Neeraj Jhaveri, Mark Cardoso, and Andreas Padilla, be good to one another out there. Thank you for joining us, everybody. Have a great day.
Time is how you operate a cadence, a flow, you grow, you show yourself a foundation.